Welcome everyone to today's webinar. My name is Bethany Servin. I work in marketing here at UsableNet. Our first speaker, Jason Taylor, is Chief Innovation Officer at UsableNet. And I will hand you off to Jason now. Jason, can you go ahead and get us started?
Yeah, thanks, Bethany, and thanks everybody for joining. Really happy to have Joseph De Niro with us today. And actually, I'm just going to ask Joseph to maybe just give us a little bit of introduction to himself, the role he has at Helen Keller and other roles that he's going to bring to this discussion. Joe, could you do a quick introduction to yourself?
Thank you, Jason. My name is Joseph De Niro. I am the Assistant Program Director of Assistive Technology Services at Helen Keller Services for the Blind. We are an agency that provides services to blind and visually impaired consumers from child age to seniors. We provide services in the areas of social work, vocational rehabilitation training, orientation mobility, my area, which is assistive technology, as well as job placement, so that people who have either had a visual impairment all their lives or has had a sudden change in their vision, have the ability to pursue higher education, get into or return to the workforce, and get the skills to live independent full lives. When I am not working in that area, my work is that I provide training here at Helen Keller to teach individuals how to use computers and mobile devices with assistive technology, be that a screen reader or a magnification software or kind of a hybrid using both technologies. When I'm not here, I head up the digital accessibility testing team at UsableNet, and we provide accessibility services to our clients, doing accessibility testing for our clients as user testers.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. So Joe actually at UsableNet heads up a team of assistive users that can be deployed on behalf of our clients to essentially test websites with live humans around the experience and supporting that disability group. Joe, I wanted to maybe, if you're comfortable, if you could sort of share your own journey in terms of in the past. I know you've got an interest in sort of history and how you ended up, really providing the services that you do today at Helen Keller.
So in my previous life, I worked in the hotel industry. I was an assistant general manager. I was 25 years old, and at the time I was looking into getting laser surgery so I could get rid of glasses. And at that exam, I was diagnosed with a condition called retinitis pigmentosa, which is a degenerative eye condition. And I was told at the time that I would basically be blind by the age of 50. So that was in 1994 when I was diagnosed. I started utilizing a white cane for traveling at night. One of the side conditions, one of the symptoms of my condition is initial night blindness. So I started to use a cane in 2002. I started to use the ZoomText magnification software in 2005 when I went back to school for computer science. And about 2014, 2015, I kind of migrated and pivoted from using ZoomText to using JAWS and becoming a screen reader user as far as my use of assistive technology.
Yeah, and I love your history, because essentially, all that's happened to you probably through the time where the internet has exploded and changed. Digital world has changed so significantly over that time. That I think you bring some really interesting sort of insights, plus the fact that you're working with people all the time, essentially helping them understand how to navigate the digital world with assistive technology. So I think you also bring to the table and to this discussion. So from an agenda point of view, if I could just quickly cover the agenda, Bethany, I actually wanted to start with very sort of, I think, uplifting, powerful conversation with Joe around how AI is actually empowering him and and some of his students today in the digital world. So you can get a sense of how AI is being attached to Joe's overall experience of the digital world. I then want to go into an area maybe that where I have a little bit more experience and think about and sort of explain to you how can AI be part of web accessibility testing, because probably all of us are doing web accessibility testing. Typically it takes a reasonable amount of time to do that. What could we see in terms of improvements that AI can bring? I then want to talk basically essentially with Joe, and Joe's going to do a demo of why you shouldn't be relying on automation and AI to deliver accessibility. And Joe's going to do help us sort of experience that from his point of view. And then we'll end with sort of some takeaways where I feel like as a web accessibility team, regardless of what role you play on that team, where could you be using AI? And you're probably going to hear me say a lot about how AI should be used to empower your team and not replace your team. We believe at UsableNet that AI has an incredible, powerful role to empower humans and not replace humans from this very important activity of making sure that the digital world is available to all. So maybe, Joe, I can give you the floor first. I know you've prepared a slide to sort of take us through some specific areas that you wanted to talk about from your personal experience so far with AI and how it's improving your world. And I'll put that slide up right now. And if you want to take over from here and maybe ask some questions after you give us this.
Okay. So, AI has been literally, particularly in the last year, a real game changer for people who are blind or visually impaired. The first thing I want to talk about, which has been around for a while, is like voice recognition, right? With the advent of smartphones, we've been able to use like smart assistants and like Siri or hey, Google, and be able to leverage that just by the power of our voice, and be able to find information very quickly, to perform tasks on our smartphones, making our smartphone interaction a little bit more automated, and really help cut down on the effort that I have to make as someone who can't see my mobile device, or being able to just get information in a very quick manner. So that's one area that has been really helpful for people who are blind. Another area that has changed dramatically, particularly in the last year, is image recognition. Now, there were tools before where I could take a photo and ask, what is this a picture of, or it would give me feedback, and say I'm sitting in an office right now with a couple computers on my desk, and I might get feedback of, image of an office with computers on a desk. And that would be the extent of the feedback that I would get. And I was just, in fact, demonstrating this tool this morning to the head of our vocational rehabilitation training department, the Be My AI, or the Be My Eyes app, but the Be My AI feature of the app, which I've been beta testing for almost a year now. And I took a snapshot of my office, and it described the different models of the computers on my desk, the colors of the keyboards, the colors of the I had black keyboards with white text. The images on, I'm in an office that has glass, just all glass windows and glass doors. So there's some art etched into the glass, and it described that, and just very detailed description of the images, which has been for me significant. I use this app day to day. I don't have an accessible thermostat at home, for example. So if I need to adjust my thermostat, I just pull up the phone and use the AI image recognition to snap a shot, and I know what the thermostat setting is. I can change it and then verify that I've changed that setting. The next thing is sort of chat GPT and having conversation, and or actually it's voice recognition with image recognition. Now with like something like Siri shortcuts, I can just hold my phone up to something that I want to get a description of, and I can ask Siri. I can say, Siri, fully describe this with Be My Eyes, and it will automatically open up the app. It will automatically take the photo, and then it will analyze the image and then describe it back to me with just the push of a button or the Hey Siri prompt. And then I can leverage in that same context. I can leverage Chat GPT, and I can dig down further into like the feedback that the initial analysis from the AI gave me. So say if it was a description, maybe it's I just took a picture of a friend and she's wearing a blue blouse with a flowered pattern, and that's the description I get. I could then ask through the chat feature of it, well, what color blue is she wearing, and what type of flowers are in the pattern, and kind of dig down further into this. There have been some very interesting case studies with using that feature. People taking pictures of their backyards, and maybe there's a fence in the backyard, and asking how far away is the fence from where they're taking the image, and being able to really give a very detailed description of someone's surroundings and stuff like that. And then we can also use Chat GPT to look up to give us feedback, like for me to do like research on stuff for work. Sometimes I can just use Chat GPT to prompt it to get me information maybe on the job skills required for a client who's looking to pivot into a new career path. So we can quickly get something that where I may have had to look at a couple different websites and collect data. ChatGPT will put everything in a very kind of clear and concise format that I can go through that material, verify that it's accurate, and then be able to pass that along to my client. And the last area is things like automated transcriptions for like things like for Zoom meetings or Teams meetings. We're using that. We use transcriptions. I just had a client that's in one of my remote programs who is not only visually impaired, but hearing impaired as well. And she required the use of transcription. And we were able to have a Zoom meeting so that I could do my assessment with her. And she was able to fully participate with that meeting, and it worked smoothly, and we just leverage the AI and the the automated transcripts to make that happen.
Thanks, Joe. I love some of those stories. And I mean, I've been in web accessibility now for like 22, 23 years. When I first started, the internet was very new, and the energy that was coming from the disability community around the power of the internet, the ability to get daily news without having to have someone come and read a newspaper to you, as an example, right, was so empowering to the community. That basically the internet changed the disability community in terms of what they could do, how much information they could get, how independent they could be. It's why today, digital accessibility is so important, because every day a new website is generated, a new application is generated. It gives benefit to consumers. We've got to make sure that that is available to everybody, whatever it is. But I'm also seeing in AI that same level of new energy, the new possibility and the new empowerment that is given the disability community. Because essentially, a lot of this AI is delivered in quote unquote accessible friendly interfaces, right? So if you think about generative AI and chat GTP, that Joe can interface with that with his voice, as well as anybody can interface with any other system. So essentially, I feel the power of AI in the disability community as strongly as as I felt it 23 years ago when we started working with the internet. But I want to come back down to earth a little bit on our next slide, although it actually has a transition from what Joe's been talking about, right? One of the areas that we obviously as a company get involved with is helping companies deliver accessible experiences. There's a number of steps that you have to take to sort of achieve that. One is, and it's an area people talk a lot about in terms of how AI is going to revolutionize, and that's sort of like the actual testing part of, hey, I've got a website, tell me what's wrong with it in the, from an experience of Joe's perspective, help me improve that website, right, through detection of issues. And I want to bringing people back to earth around how AI can help in different areas of this space. So the first thing I'm going to say about AI is it can help in web accessibility, but it's tied to automation. Its help and support is to make automation and the current capabilities of automation better, but not expand automation. So all of the limitations that most people have probably heard about in terms of, using automated testing as part of accessibility, those limitations still exist if you add AI, meaning if you can't automate it, AI can't help you. Okay, so the main areas that we're seeing and we're leveraging in terms of AI is firstly the area that Joe talked about. Image recognition is really powerful, right? Imagine that if you can't see Instagram, but you can now just listen to Instagram on full stream, right? This is what AI can bring in terms of images. And images and videos are significantly important in our new modern society. It is a flood of imagery and videos. And the fact that AI can produce more images and videos means that images and videos will become more and more important in our society. So actually AI able to help with that, I think is very powerful. The other areas that AI can help on the automated testing front is to improve some of the automated testing where people would have described as semi-automated, which means basically, hey, we can detect something, but we can't tell you whether it's right or wrong. AI can help with getting better at that in terms of now we can detect it and tell you if it's right or wrong. So these are the two areas that we see AI can improve and support in web accessibility testing. But unfortunately, that is not a massive area of improvement compared to what you have to do today to make sure that you're supporting people like Joe. And the reason of that is, and I'll bring up the second slide, right? The reason why AI can't help is because lots and lots of testing under the WCAG requires context. And AI today, as we can implement it, which is generative AI, is not pure intelligence. It's actually a mathematical formula, right? So it's actually not general intelligence, it's artificial intelligence. It's generally machine learning. And it doesn't help where humans used to be needed to assess contextual elements, dynamic elements, complex interactions on websites. Humans are still going to be needed in your process to do that work. And I still believe the most powerful use or most powerful use of humans in that process is to have people like Joe who use assistive technology to give you honest feedback about whether they can complete tasks or not complete tasks. But it's just sort of me trying to make sure that people don't get too carried away with, where AI can take a place. So AI today can sit on top of what was before automated. It is not expanding where automation can be used. Essentially, that still requires lots of human intelligence to make sure that an experience that you've built is good for all humans. And we talk about very much AI empowering humans and not replacing humans. And if you come to the next slide, I just wanted to address a couple of hype factors I've seen recently talked around AI accessibility testing and web accessibility testing. So people overhype because essentially a lot of the times AI is driving things like investment and funding, and tech companies want to essentially sort of overhype AI and its importance because otherwise they can't get funding and investment from the VC world and the investment world because AI is so hot. Okay, so just to sort of make sure that we are all on the same page of what's hype and what's not hype, right? You'll see things like automation can detect 80% of issues. Okay, to be clear, automation detects lots and lots of small issues. By volume, they could represent 80%, but by type, they still only represent 20 or 30%. What do I mean by that? I mean that if you've got lots of images on your website and none of them have alt tags, I can auto detect that none of them have alt tags. Okay, by volume, that means I really achieve testing lots of your small stuff. But what automation doesn't do is test the big stuff. And I actually bring Joe in here just to give you a context, right? So Joe spends lots of his time, running a team of people who go out and test websites, meaning assistive technology users who go out and test websites, right? I wanted to bring Joe in outside of, let's say, the really big stuff like Instagram and stuff, right? The types of sites that you test, Joe, could you give me sort of a range of the types of sites that you test typically?
Well, typically we do a lot of retail sites. We do banking, transportation, health services. So kind of a little of everything.
And as a sort of just sort of I'd like to sort of give context, right? How important are images and alt tags in that testing of those types of sites?
For me, not very important at all. In a lot of instances, there's not really a lot of images where there's really any importance. And even in the retail space where you may see a bunch of images for a product, the more important thing for me is a very good product description. That's generally the place that I'm headed to get information about the product that I'm looking at. I'm not really looking at the images with the screen reader. But if there's a really good product description, then I have all the information that I need to make the choice of whether I'm going to purchase that product or not.
Yeah, and to sort of tie it back to what Joe started talking about, right? The empowerment of him to be able to understand images and the physical world around him is super important. But actually, when he gets to the real world, when he gets to his day job of testing websites, right, banking, healthcare, but images aren't important. They're actually mostly applications. They don't have images. So there's overhype because images have this place in our community, right now, in our world now, in our digital world, where images are so important and they're used so much and people consume them so much. But it's really important that Joe has access to understanding images. But in most cases of most people's websites, images are not the most important thing. What's most important thing for Joe is that he can, even in retail, which is interesting, right? It's for him to understand the product, put it into cart and buy it. And that's a complicated set of actions. And it doesn't include images and it doesn't include alt tags. It includes dynamic elements. And the other thing, the reason why we don't get, as excited about, let's say, how AI is going to solve web accessibility is detection is one of the 4 things you need to do to make sure that you're supporting Joe. One, you have to detect issues. Second, you have to recode. So you have to change development code. Third, you have to verify that code is accessible. And you have to make sure that the changes that you make didn't break the site. So again, AI can support and improve auto-only testing, but as a percentage of overall teamwork that needs to be done, it's not dramatically changing the resource requirement and the requirement to have good humans throughout that process. And now I want to show you, and Joe's going to show you what is the result is if you use one of these sort of like automated only AI backed solutions to deliver accessibility. We're going to work with a very simple site as well. And Joe's going to show you his experience and talk about why he thinks that's not working so well.
Okay, so first thing I'm going
to Joe, if you want to share your screen, I'll let you know when it's up.
Control.
Okay, so you should
screen sharing meeting.
Seen my screen.
You have started screen share. Press F6 to switch between open.
Okay.
Joe, I think it might be worth when you
Live
first
transcription.
go to the website,
Escape screen share.
give a little bit of a quick tutorial of like how you typically would navigate your website, so we understand. So the
Participants
audience
can
that
now
may
see
have
your
never seen a screen reader user operate, understand how you're how you think about a website, how you would actually sort of use some of the first ways of sort of navigating a site.
Okay. Let's
inbox dash generic webinar host invited you to be invite. Screen inbox dash generic at Helen Alt F4. 6 reminder.
Okay, that should be gone now.
Yep, you see your desktop.
Escape.
Okay.
Search box edit. ED Microsoft Edge Microsoft Rec enter. Address and search bar edit blank. rtcsnv.com enter. Just a moment dash personal dash Microsoft Edge. Just a moment dash Microsoft Edge. Just a moment loading complete. 2 regions, 2 headings and 1 link. Just a moment loading page main region heading level 1 www.rtc main menu. Escape. Escape.
Well, the first thing I did here, when you first hit this page, it's interesting to try to navigate this page. I hit the tab key once, and it took me right into
about to escape
a menu.
Projects and initiatives 3 of 7.
And
leaving menus escape.
But I'm going to escape out of this and
RTC main
and go and start from the top of the page. So typically the first thing that I will do when I navigate a page is I will navigate by headings, and just to get a feel for kind of the structure and feel for the layout of the page, so I can navigate pretty much to any element type that is on a page. So I'm going to currently navigate by heading.
Transportation planning heading level 2.
So the first heading that I hit is transportation.
Learn more heading level 4. RTC transit dashboard heading level 2. Plan your ride heading level 2.
So under plan your ride, I would assume that there's information here how I would plan my ride.
Departing from : edit, may escape, virtual P.
And there's controls there to get that information, but I'm going to continue on.
Latest initiatives heading level 1.
I'm going to down arrow from here.
Link 2023-now-hiring-contractors-CTA. Heading level 4, need a career change.
So there's a little information here. And I'm not going to go through all the headings on this page, but generally, once I have gotten a feel for the heading structure, I will go back up to the top of the page.
RTC main, RTC Southern Nevada.
And then I'm going to try to look for the navigation menu. So right now I'm going to just tab.
Main region, arriving at : edit. Escape. RTC main, RTC main, escape. RTC main,
Right.
RTC main.
All right, I'm at the top.
Accessibility menu button has pop-up dialog. To act.
So that's the accessibility menu for the widget that's here.
Skip to content, same page link.
And then I'm continuing to tab.
Banner region, RTC home link. List with 5 items. Planning link. Projects link. Initiatives link. Innovations link. Streets and highways link.
Okay, so I'm just tabbing right now.
So I just add in there, Joe, because Joe's only listening, right? So Joe is actually probably thinking, "Hey, I'm hearing some links. This seems to be all right." If people are watching this video, they'll probably recognize that Joe never got to listen to the main navigation. He got thrown into sub navigation straight away. So that's an example of where, a automated system has decided that, hey, these are links. It doesn't really look and analyze tab order, right? So it's basically can't actually analyze tab order, but it's saying, hey, these are links. So essentially, this is okay because from a listening point of view, Joe went to a website and he's now navigating some links. But he's not navigating the same navigation that we would navigate if you're visual, like you would actually start on the main navigation. He's already been thrown into sub navigations, and he's missing out on what you would expect are the top level navigation, which would probably help him better understand what he can get, because obviously top level navigation is set up to be that sort of how to explore what this website can give you as information. So Joe, you're actually right now on a sub navs, but I'm pretty sure you know that because you tested the site earlier. But
yep. So I'm gonna go back up to the top of the page now.
RTC main, RTC Southern.
And instead of tab navigating, now I'm going to arrow navigate.
Accessibility menu button has pop-up dialog. Same page link, skip to content. Visited link, RTC home. Main navigation region.
So I didn't hear before that I was in the main navigation region, so I'm going to continue down.
Menu bar with 7 items. Ways to travel menu collapsed. About menu collapsed. Projects and initiatives menu collapsed. Traffic cams menu collapsed.
Okay.
Projects and about menu collapsed.
So I'm going to select one of these. These are not actually labeled as like an actionable element like a button or anything, but based on the fact that it's indicated as a menu and that it's collapsed, I'm assuming that if I enter on this, that there's going to be a sub menu for the particular menu item. So I'm going to enter on this.
Enter, about menu, loading page. About the RTC, about the RTC, about the RT, about the RTC, about the RTC.
And instead of a sub menu being provided to me, focus was moved back to the top of the page and the about page was opened. So, but I'm going to go back down to that same.
Accessibility menu. Same page links. Visited link RTC. Main navigation. Menu bar with 7 items.
And I'm again arrowing down.
Ways to travel menu collapsed. About menu collapsed.
Okay. And now I'm going to reach over to my laptop and I'm just going to demonstrate by left mouse clicking.
Projects and initiatives. About menu collapsed.
Hopefully.
Context menu. Web context has pop-up modal. To navigate, press up. Refresh. 2 of 6. Save as. 3 of. Refresh. Escape. Leaving menus. About the RTC. About the RTC dash Microsoft Edge. About menu collapsed.
So if I can take it from here, Joe, just to sort of give people an idea, right? So
Projects and initiatives.
screen readers, users navigate sites in basically 2 ways. One is by tabbing, right? And the other is by using the arrow key, right? And Joe listens to that structure. Joe hears those things, right? That is not hard for anybody to do from a test perspective, right? What Joe just did was basically tab through the website, and then to see which navigation came up when, right? And then he went back to the top of the page and he used arrow down, essentially, which is basically hitting every element and then trying to use it. Okay, so a very simple test of anybody grabbing their keyboard and doing that tab order and doing that arrow order would have revealed exactly the same problems that Joe is revealing, but you're hearing it. So it's almost like it's more frustrating to Joe. Well, actually, it could be less frustrating to Joe because Joe doesn't know what he's missing out on, right? Joe's just hearing stuff and he's like, oh, about must only be about. There can't be another 7 areas in about if there's only about, right? But as you probably visually saw, there was a sub menu of 7 areas in the about, but actually Joe's automatically thrown into just 1 area, so he doesn't get access to the other 6. Again, humans can do this test very easily. It reveals big problems, but because no humans were used in this process, you end up with a computer that basically is doing almost like what Joe's doing. It's like, well, the computer heard links. It's fine. There's links. They're named correctly, and actually everything's fine. And if Joe didn't know what he knew, Joe might be like, well, this is what the website does. This is all the website can give me because I clearly went to navigation and I clearly got the about, and that's all there is. So hopefully what we've illustrated is how
Alt
a
S.
little bit of human interaction
Escape.
on a website can
Screen sharing
reveal
meeting controls.
significant problems on a website that an automated approach cannot. And again, as I illustrated, this is just an informational site. This is an informational site with links, right? And content. This is not a site where you can go banking and do trading. This is not a site where you log in and you use healthcare. So think of the complexity that gets put into a process if you're relying on automation and not including humans. And that's sort of where we want to sort of allow people to understand AI can help humans do a better job. They can't replace humans, and that's what we hope to sort of illustrate with that sort of demonstration. Joe, anything else to add on that? Because I know you guys, I mean, you spent a lot of time finding out, but you didn't get access to to the items that I've sort of described.
Well, it's I mean it's the biggest challenge for blind individuals. I mean that's one of the biggest complaints from my clients is the ability to access information. You know, I went through that navigation menu. It said that it was collapsed. So I know that there's supposed to be a sub menu there, but it's frustrating because I don't know. I know that I'm missing something, but I don't know what I'm missing. And you know, it could be something that's very important that I'm specifically looking for, and I can't find the information. And it can be frustrating. It can be a blocker that, you just don't, you wind up not getting what you need, and you're not able to complete the task that you're looking to accomplish when you go to a particular site.
Yeah, so let's just finish with giving you sort of a little bit of a roadmap of where we see, me in particular, but also UsableNet would sort of tell clients where we feel like AI should be starting to be used across the teams to empower teams, how we're using AI within our teams, because we actually do a lot of we do a lot of remediation of websites ourselves. So we have teams of designers, UX, project managers, developers, QA, testers. So we're looking all the time at how do we help those teams, empower those teams to do a better, quicker job, right? I've just picked out sort of across the teams sort of things that you could think about in terms of how you should be thinking about, like where you can use AI. Content editing, especially for things like complex sort of articles, or you're worried that things aren't described about your product or your process or anything that basically requires a detail. Generative AI is amazing at simplifying things and making sure that meets WCAG guidelines around the simplification and support for cognitive learning. You should be looking at task automation, because AI is really good at task automation, meaning it's not doing the task, but if you've got different systems, you have a project management system, you have a testing system, right? AI is very good at connecting those two and making sure that those two are working well together and looking for ways to improve that automation. In the development process, code assistants, there's a range of these, like Copilot, but essentially developers typically are busy, rushed, they've got a lot to think about. So AI copilots for essentially doing a check of code to make sure that they've remembered to include accessibility in that code, right? Doing checking of the code that they've written, right? But most of the development houses that we know today are not using AI to write the original code, but they are using AI assistants to check the code, right, that they've written. Integrating AI into your other systems as a sort of accessibility advocate to remind people that they've got to take accessibility and to follow certain rules, right? So AI doesn't get bored reminding people, doesn't get embarrassed reminding people, right? So AI is really good at putting into your systems to say, hey, did you remember this? You've got to make sure that we're supporting these types of things in design, these types of things in QA. So AI is very good at reminding people of things. And then the last areas, especially if you're a subject matter expert, you might want to look at something like a ChatGPT app. I've done this where I've taken transcripts of my webinars and essentially create a ChatGPT environment that, based on what I've said in the past, you can ask it questions. So as an industry expert or subject matter expert, you could set up a Chat Pro app where you go and put into that app all the things that you think are the best pieces of content out there. Maybe internal documents about how your accessibility policy, maybe some internal training that you've done, and then you allow people to talk to the chatbot as if they're talking to you. So that's also a great way that you can leverage AI to sort of almost like duplicate yourself if you're a subject matter expert, and give people their own way of communicating and asking questions, and leveraging your knowledge. So I'll sort of leave you with those. I want to leave some time for especially questions for Joe. Maybe Bethany, you can come back in and look for some of those questions that we want to give to Joe.
Okay, let's start off with some kind of easy questions here. Joe, someone asked if you could confirm the screen reader. Are you using JAWS, and what voice are you using with JAWS?
So yes, I am using JAWS. And I am using one of the vocalizer voices. I believe I'm using Ava. That's her name. So there's a whole family of voices they're called vocalizer voices that you can use instead of the default voice that comes with JAWS.
When using your screen reader on a web page, are there instances when detailed descriptions for decorative images slow down your access to more relevant information?
Detailed image. Well, if it's sometimes like on e-commerce or retail sites where the product description page has 8, 9, 10 images, a jacket, front, side, back, close up, and they've done a good job of the image description. If I'm arrowing through that product description page, it's definitely going to slow me down a little bit. But as I mentioned earlier, I'm interested in the product description itself. So I'm going to try to move as quickly as possible through that, but it will slow me down to some degree.
Computer user myself, I have felt sometimes that the mobile web is more usable than the desktop web. In your own testing, Joe, what have you found?
It depends. There are instances where I'll use a company's mobile app because I find that for me as a screen reader user, I'm able to fluidly move through the app a lot quicker and accomplish the goal that I want to do if I'm looking to buy a product, for example. Like for example, I'll use Amazon. Amazon's website is fully accessible, but it's I find it to be very cluttered on desktop. There's just a lot of content there. For me to go through the app to buy something, if I know what I'm looking to purchase, I can be done in 5 minutes. I can do my search, find my product, add it to the cart, check out, and be done in 5 minutes. So it depends.
Okay. Do you find website accessibility widgets helpful, or are they more of a hindrance when trying to navigate a website?
Well, website widgets, they don't help at all, and many times if anything, they make things worse. For example, recently, I just moved recently. I moved to a new complex, and we use a portal for rent payments as well as maintenance tickets. And when I initially went to the website to log in, there was the widget was enabled, and so it asked me for my email address, put that in, and then underneath was text that said log in. It wasn't labeled as an actionable element or anything, but I couldn't interact with that text. When I disabled the widget, then what was present was an unlabeled button. So intuitively, I knew that, as soon as I tabbed away from the screen reader, I mean, the edit field that had my email address in it, that unlabeled button was for me to continue for the login process. So in one instance, the widget was enabled and I would not be able to continue. And while the unlabeled button wasn't fantastic either, at least I could interact with that.
Okay. Great. I'm trying to pull some kind of related questions. We've got a couple of questions about screen readers, NVDA versus JAWS. Is NVDA good enough to test with, or should they be using JAWS? And then someone else also asked why you prefer JAWS, Joe.
So the answer about using NVDA versus JAWS is you should use both, because you're going to have kind of different experiences with the interaction of the screen readers with the websites. I use JAWS because it has the ability to, if I use third-party software and there are issues, we can there can be scripts that are written for the software so that it can, deal with those, like it's like old legacy third-party software. We can write scripts to allow the screen reader to interact with that legacy software.
Okay, and we are getting not quite a few, but a good amount of questions about building an accessibility testing program. And we do have an ebook on that you can view on our website. So I'm going to go ahead and send out a link to that. And also we have a blog on automated testing that I will also link. And then Jason last fall wrote a blog about using AI for accessibility that I think is relevant here too. Can you advise if you use any shortcuts other than headers, like landmarks? If yes, how often, and are they important to your navigation experience?
So yeah, I can at times will use landmark/regions to kind of navigate to see does the website have like a defined navigation region, a defined main content region, a defined footer region, because if there's other things that so if there's not strong heading structure, but there's a footer landmark, I can at least use that tool to navigate by landmarks to kind of jump down to that area to look for content that I would intuitively would think would be in the footer area of the page, for example.
Okay. Jason, this one's kind of for you. Using AI to support code will only work if the learning model is full of accessible code. With all the inaccessible code out there, how could you be certain that the AI will actually support you and not lead you astray?
Yeah, it's a good question. And actually, well, it's also a very good observation, right? So I think probably talking about generative AI. So what is available today, right? So those models essentially are trained on everything that's out there. So if you don't really lead it in a certain way, you're going to get back as maybe the person who's asking the question sort of illustrates it well. If you ask something to give me a code example, right, and it's using the body of work of the internet today, well, most of that's inaccessible. So arguably you're going to get back inaccessible examples, and you would if you asked it in general terms. You can ask Copilot, though, to, in the same way as you can ask for a certain tone on an article, you can ask it to essentially make sure that what it's bringing back is it follows WCAG guidelines, for example, right? So, and that means it would go to its also knowledge of what is accessible WCAG code, and check that the code that it's proposing is that. The more advanced way that you might do that is you can have a private model So essentially, you're using the actual, a private model where you could input to that private model examples of accessible code for your team, right? And make sure that the private model is leaning towards more leveraging those examples over the general ones. So there are ways that you can lead or direct generative AI to help better. But in general, you're correct. If you say, hey, go give me an example, it's going to give you an example based on the totality of code examples out there, and most likely will not give you back great accessible code because the internet is full of non-accessible code. But there are ways that you can lead it and ask it to refine itself.
And this is going to end today's webinar.